Hi, y'all. It's Alex, the Best Places social media manager, and you're about to watch Victoria interview Benjamin, a Best Places user. In the interview, they discuss his experience in Prescott, Arizona. Enjoy.
Okay, hello, I'm Benjamin and I live in the Prescott area, and I'm just going to talk to you about Prescott and the surrounding areas to give you an idea of what it's all about and if you want to come here or not. So I'll start out by just mentioning that Prescott used to be Arizona's state capital at one time before it moved down to Phoenix. Too bad we lost it, but oh well, I can understand that. Prescott is famous for it still hosts the oldest rodeo, if you're into rodeo, horse rodeo. And so they're still holding them annually. And also Prescott has several lakes around it, not large lakes, but enough to get a boat on and do some fishing on it and so forth. And so Prescott has some history behind it as far as it being used to being the state capital. It still has the downtown courthouse, which is the courthouse for the Yavapai County. And the courthouse sits in a nice green grassy area right in the middle of downtown, which we all call the downtown square because it forms a square down there. It's really nice tree lined, real green grassy area. You can see pictures of it online to get an idea of what I'm talking about. And it's just a really nice place to go to for historical purposes. And during the summer, between Memorial Day and Labor Day, about every 2 weeks they have like an art fair or a gift shop fair, a craft fair. About every 2 weeks, you can find something going on down there, and it's really great place to just wander down there and spend the day. So also around the square. On the outside is full of shops with unique gift shops, souvenir shops, unique clothing stuff. They have several restaurants, a couple of hotels along the square, and they have several bars down there too. Now, there is one of the roads, Montezuma Road, is called, what used to be called, or still is, called Whiskey Row. The story goes that it was called Whiskey Row because back in the Old West, they used to have lots of bars on that row. And the challenge is can you drink a shot of whiskey starting at the first bar and making your way all the way down to the last one? I don't know if that's true, but I have heard that as a rumor, and I will live with that. Okay. Downtown area in Prescott is sort of laid out like a grid, starts out like a grid. As far as the streets go, but then very quickly it turns into curvy streets and streets that just wind all over the place. Now, this is mainly because we're stuck up against mountains, and so you have mountains to the west of us and a lot of foothills to the around surrounding areas. So you start getting into windy areas, and for some reason, I think because of different type of incorporations where streets started, is that when streets join together, they change names. So you'll be driving along one street and all of a sudden it'll just change a name into something. So something to watch out for if you're coming out to visit. Let's see, one of the neat things about Prescott was that there's a thing called Thumb Butte, which is kind of a nice, it's either a small mountain or a tall hill, whatever you want to call it. So it's a landmark to us. Whenever you're standing in Prescott and you see Thumb Butte, you know that's west. So it's always west of Prescott. It's kind of a landmark that we all know about. Whenever I talk about Prescott, people ask me first, well, where's Prescott? Because I live there, and they say, oh, is that near Phoenix or something? So what I show people is a map, and here's Phoenix down here, and Flagstaff way up here. Now, Flagstaff is about 120 miles from Phoenix as the crow flies. So halfway in between is the road you take to Prescott, and that's about a 25-mile road. So it's an offshoot from the main highway. So that kind of gives you an idea of where it's located in the state. Elevation wise, it's about 6,000 feet altitude. So your ears pop when you drive up from Phoenix. The Prescott area is actually, I'd like to mention that there's about 4 cities that kind of comprise the area. We call it kind of the Tri-City area if you're just talking about these, and then you can include Paulding as the Quad City area. But Prescott, and then 7 miles away, 8 miles away is Prescott Valley. Prescott Valley is a little bit flatter, not as hilly, and then north of there, about what did I have? 16 miles, 14 miles is Chino Valley, and another 8 to Paulding. So I'll talk about these areas because when you talk about Prescott, you kind of have to include all of them just to kind of give you an idea that there's a variety of places to live around the area, yet still have close access to stuff, shopping, and so forth. You probably saw the Thumb Butte there. That's what Thumb Butte
nice. Is that a plane next to?
That is the regional airport. It's pretty small. They did actually extend it so they can land larger aircraft in there. Used to just take puddle jumper airplanes down to Phoenix, but now they can land a larger plane. Don't know the specs on it, but at least they can handle more passengers.
Nice.
It might even fly out to Vegas. I'm not sure, but anyway, speaking of Vegas, that's only like a 6-hour drive, I think. And then an 8-hour drive out to San Diego or out to the coast. So it's kind of a nice, just one day and you're out there.
Yeah.
So, and I mentioned those 3 areas. So I'll give you an idea that I lived in Prescott for 10 years and then lived in Prescott Valley for 11 years. So I kind of get an idea of what both. I still work in Prescott and live in Prescott Valley. Prescott is, I'll give you an idea that Prescott is a little bit more for retired people, or I'll say the population is on the upper end of the scale. So, you'll find that's in Prescott is where the major nursing homes are at. I think there's 4 major ones and several smaller ones. Also, there's a hospital out in Prescott that they focus on older people stuff like geriatrics and so forth. Prescott also is, you'll find more, well, I'll say hometown type of restaurants. So restaurants that have been here quite a while and you probably never heard of them before. And some of them are like old converted, used to be old converted hotels, or they used to be older restaurants that are still hanging on. So you'll find that as opposed to Prescott Valley. Now, Prescott Valley is where younger families live at. There's not as much history in Prescott Valley, and it's they have more affordable housing in Prescott Valley. So, and also the restaurants out there are more modern that you'll be more familiar with. So there's Chili's, there's Cracker Barrel, and there's so forth out there that names that you heard of before. Mm-hmm. So it's certainly for a younger family, and it's kind of considered a support system for the people in Prescott. So you have older retired people in Prescott, and then you have the younger people from Prescott Valley that drive into Prescott for running the restaurants and running the hospitals and so forth. While I'm on cities, I'll just briefly mention Chino Valley because, like I say, it's way north, and it's I'll say it's horse property. That's a great term only because there's lots of like 2-acre to 5-acre property out there. And if you want to own horses, then that's your place to go because it's more spread out, it's flatter, and it's great for that. Your neighbor next to you won't get mad at you for having a horse as they would in town here. Mm-hmm. I'll also mention that Prescott Valley, I'm sorry, I skipped the Prescott Valley, also has a hospital, and that is where all the pediatric stuff is too. So again, catering to the younger families is, they saw where that's heading at. Mm-hmm. Population-wise, the Prescott has, I think at last count, maybe around 45,000 people. Prescott Valley, probably 50,000 or maybe 55. But the draw area of the Tri-City is around 120,000 people. So if it's a small town, but yet it has it's spread out enough so the three cities have the draw area. Let's see. I'll say shopping wise, there is one indoor mall that was built, I think about 8 years ago, maybe 10 years. It's one indoor mall, and I will say that it's kind of struggling as far as indoor malls go. It still has a Dillard's and the J.C. Penney and still several stores, but Sears kind of went out, and so anyway, it's still there. You can still shop there. We do have a lot of I'll call them outdoor malls because
Okay.
I don't like to call them strip malls. They're not really strip malls, is what I vision. And these are better looking than that, or more healthy than that. And
Like outlet malls.
No, I wouldn't. It almost has that outlet mall feeling, but they aren't outlet malls. They are individual stores that aren't outlet.
Okay.
But they have. I guess what I think of a strip mall is a really small parking lot, but these have an established parking lot. They do have kind of a surround area to kind of surround you in, as opposed to a strip mall where you have to drive in and out real quick. So I guess you just have to come out and see it to appreciate it. But those really do help, and they kind of take the place of what indoor malls used to be, or taking the place of indoor malls. I don't know if this is a figure, but we have 3 Walmarts. So whatever that means to you, that shows you kind of the what they're trying to service here and everything. So I wrote on the board, if you want to pronounce our city, you can call
Prescott.
Prescott. So it's Prescott, kind of like biscuit. So that's something we say here. And it's been debated. So whether it's Prescott or whether it's Prescott. So you can take up your own sides on that. I will leave that up to you. So I will take a breath and see if you have a question for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. It's great. We've been asking folks like other places they've lived, and they've talked about those as well. But this is nice, describing, kind of your Tri-City area, and not just, the immediate city is helpful, especially that you've lived in 2 of them. So you're in Prescott Valley now, correct? And then prior to that, you were living in Prescott.
Correct. And I still work in Prescott. And so I drive in every morning, and it's only 8 miles away. So not a big deal.
Cool. Yeah. And it sounded like when you were describing the 3 areas, Prescott Valley is kind of newer, more modern, family centric. Prescott, it seems really great for retirement, which is fantastic, because that's definitely a topic that a lot of folks use our site for when they're finding a place to settle in retirement. And then Chino, if you want the space and the land and maybe not living right up on your neighbors. Great. Yeah, that was wonderful. I'm gonna take a beat and close my second set of doors real quick.
Okay.
Because
we'll be back right now. Cool.
Yeah. Great. Okay. And so I'll try not to cover anything that you already shared with us. That was fantastic. And I also loved the pronunciation you gave us, because you never know, there's always the official spelling and pronunciation of a place, but if you know how the locals call it, it's a good way to get yourself settled into a new place, because it's definitely not, especially I feel like when I lived in the South, a lot of the places aren't pronounced by the locals how you might think it is pronounced.
Yep.
So kind of going off of what you described of Prescott and Prescott Valley, what about your experience living in these 2 cities and living in Arizona made you want to reach out to Best Places to be a part of this interview?
Let's see. Of course, I lived in Phoenix for 5 years, and liked it at first, but wow, does it get hot? And I knew that, but I tolerate it. But up here at 6,000 feet, you don't get the weather extreme as you do in Phoenix. So so I'll say one of the positive aspects of living up here is the weather that we have. You don't get, let's see, you can get up to 90 in the summer. Very seldom do you get up to 100, and so certainly not the extreme. People say if you live in Arizona, well, you must be you must be hot there. No, no, not really. It's not that bad here in Prescott. So also in the wintertime, we get a snowfall, and the snow, I'll say, over the past 21 years I've been here, it's been unpredictable. There are winters where we have 4 heavy snowfalls. There's been a winter where we had none. And so it all depends on what the weather patterns are doing at the time and what climate change is doing. I don't know. But yeah, it really is unpredictable. A couple of years we had a nice couple of heavy snowfalls, and then last year was hardly anything, but we got a few flakes. So so I can't answer like what's winter like. I'm sorry, it just changes. But summers, yeah, you can pretty much depend on the fact that yeah, you can get like right now, what is it, up to 80s? It's in the 80s right now. I mean, it just barely got to 80 today. And then as it goes, you'll get 85 and 90 in the middle of summer. But then once in a while you get up to 100, but not too often. So that's what I liked about it. The what I liked between Prescott Valley, is that what your question was? What I liked about it?
I asked what about your experience living there made you want to be a part of this interview and tell us about it. So that might be what you like about.
Yeah, just to tell people about that, I will also go ahead and focus on some of the things that kind of I'm watching out for. One of the things is that the cost of living here in Prescott is not a small town cost of living that you might consider. It's more of a major city type of cost of living. So prices here may not be what you expect in Grand Island, Nebraska, for example. So it's that can be kind of a turnoff for some people if they it's just something you want to look for. That also kind of feeds into the housing prices here as well, is that we seem to be experiencing a housing pricing increase. I know a lot of America is, but it seems to be pressing here because this is seems to be a popular place. And so we get a lot of people with a lot of money coming into the city and then just buying a house outright or overpaying for a house. And what that does is tend to make the housing price goes up, because people who sell their houses, sure, they want to get the most, and then that kind of prices out somebody that a Prescottonian that's been living here for a while that then wants to upgrade can no longer afford that upgrade. They have to stay where they're at or something. This of course affects the apartment prices as well, because if you can't get a house, then you move into an apartment, and then those become. So what that's done too is make a lot of contractors build a lot of houses, and so a lot of housing is going up all around, particularly in the Prescott Valley area, because that's where they have room to expand at. Prescott is kind of up against all sides. They can't go any more west, and they're trying to go north, and they can't go any further south. So they're kind of up against some walls, but then Prescott Valley has room to expand, and that living there in Prescott Valley, I just see houses going up all over, housing communities, housing tract housing and stuff, and builders are just throwing them up as quick as they can. That also might lead to, if you lived here long enough, you know that you used to be able to drive a leisurely drive down Glassford Hill Road, but now you got traffic because you have all the houses and families moving in. So the infrastructure is trying to keep up with the housing growth and so forth.
Okay.
As houses come up, then there's always concern about water, and there are different viewpoints on water. There's some people that say, "Oh, we have plenty, don't worry." But then you have other people that say, "Look, you're building these houses and you're going to drain our supply." I can't speak for what the details are of that. I'm looking into it, but it's something that if you're thinking of moving here, it's something to look into just to see if anything pops up. So something I'm looking at.
Great.
Hope that answered that part.
Yeah, definitely did. No, I think that was a good point. One about the climate there, because yeah, I do feel like Arizona gets lumped into kind of Phoenix temperatures, which is where I used to live and wouldn't go back to just because of the summer temperatures. But I like Flagstaff and showing us that map was super helpful to see where it is in relation to that, knowing that it's at the higher elevation that you get decent, get up into, have 120 summer weeks at a time. But then also that you've got folks moving in from it's kind of it sounds like it's becoming a transplant city, which is raising the cost of living, which is also an important factor for a lot of folks. So appreciate you bringing that up as well.
Yeah, and I will mention too, and I just thought of this about one of the nice things about Prescott is that again the map. Let's see where Phoenix not being too far away, only being about an hour and a half away from the city limit. You can get into downtown Phoenix in under 2 hours, like I say, 90 minutes, 100 minutes, something to get to Phoenix, and from there you can catch the airport to fly to major cities. Also, there's a lot of art down there. There are several art venues that we go to, theaters and so forth, that we take advantage of down there down in Phoenix. And so it's a nice distance away without driving too far to get to some culture. Now, I hate to say culture because not saying Prescott doesn't have culture. We have a nice theater in the Yavapai College out here. And Yavapai College is a junior college or a 2-year college, but they have a fantastic theater department and a beautiful theater that they have a lot of traveling groups come in. There is the Nutcracker Ballet, something is performed there every year. We've had famous people come in and do performances there as well. And so I don't know. I get chills because I like going there and seeing their stuff. The also out here is in Prescott Valley is where we have a large auditorium. I'll say it's like a basketball. What do you call it? A civic center is what it is.
Okay.
So they have they play basketball games in there. They used to have the Northern Arizona Suns basketball team playing out there, and then also it converts into an ice skating rink, and so they had the Arizona Coyotes that were playing out there for a while, practicing out there. I've heard. So and they also turn that into just a regular ice skating rink, so people can do ice skating out there. So that is a large venue that where they have a lot of graduations and ceremonies and so forth. For the past several years, the county fair has been out there, and so so we do have a lot of I guess nice places to hold artistic type venues.
Great. Yeah, no, it's nice that you are close enough for Phoenix if there are bigger or certain events that you want to be able to go to and the airport, but it sounds like you also immediately in the city have your own access to that as well. I know we're coming up on about half an hour. I am just going to send my coworker a quick message and tell her I will, because we have a 4:00 meeting. and tell her I will just call her because I just want to finish up without cutting you off here.
Pretty much done, I think.
Okay, great. So you kind of let us know what you like and some things that you wish were different or could live without, like the cost of living, how that's going up. The worry about like water shortage. So having said all that, would you recommend your hometown to someone else if they were considering living there?
I'd recommend it for, I would say Prescott is more ideal for retired people that like an old hometown type of feeling to it. And that's one of the best things that Prescott has to offer, especially the Prescott and downtown area. There's also areas, and I'll say there's several pockets of wealthy houses. So houses that can be 500,000 to $1 million home. So if you have that type of lifestyle, and then Prescott's great for that because you have a couple of golf courses to take advantage of. You have people catering to that type of thing, and so that's what I would think of most of. For younger families, if you want to be closer to, for example, your retired family, then that's great. Then to go to Prescott Valley to live in those areas because those are more affordable housing. And beyond that, then Chino Valley for horses. If you're into horse property, then that's a great place to go to because, like I say, people have horses up there, and they're not going to care whether you have some or not.
Perfect. Okay, and I'll just wrap up with one last question. I don't know if did you ever live outside of Arizona?
Yes, I've lived. I grew up in Missouri for about 22 years. Lived in Detroit, Michigan for about 4 years. Santa Barbara, California for 2 years. Touristy place. Oh wow. And Phoenix for 5 years, then Grand Island, Nebraska for 2 years, and back to Prescott. So here I am. So
Okay.
yes, I've hopped around quite a bit. So.
Yeah. So when you made your first initial move into Arizona, was that from California?
Well, I'll tell you, I visited Arizona, visited Phoenix back when I was about 10 years old and fell in love with it. Cactus, the Southwest, the cowboy hat. That's the lifestyle for me. So I've always wanted to move back there. And that's what took me to a roundabout way to finally get to Phoenix, Arizona. And that's where I met my wife. And she said, well, I didn't want to live in Phoenix. I said, oh, okay. Well, I guess here I go. So that's how we hopped around a couple of times, and then we settled on Prescott eventually. And so that's what brought us to Prescott, Arizona.
Okay, great. Just thinking of when you did make that first move into Phoenix, looking back at the move itself, if there was any recommendations or tips or advice that you would give someone that was moving from out of state into Arizona to help them adjust.
Adjust. I'm afraid I can't really answer that. Can't think of anything that would get your sunscreen, maybe. That's so if you're not prepared for that, I have a lot of skin on top, and so I wear a hat all the time outside. I just have my cowboy hat with me all the time, and just wear it, and that's about all I can provide you. Is that be prepared for if you're moving to Phoenix. It's certainly that blast furnace heat when you walk out of a building or something. It really does kind of hit you. Whether you can get used to it or not, I don't know. I did. I relished it. I didn't mind the heat at all. But Prescott is not that way. So Prescott is probably like most other cities where you just have your normal temperatures and that's it.
Okay, great. So it depends on where you're headed, but sounds like climate is a big part of that. Just like be prepared for whatever climate you might be moving into. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hope you enjoyed that interview. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring that notification bell so you know when we upload new videos. You can also follow us on social to keep up with the team and what we're doing. All of that will be plugged in the description. Leave a comment below telling us what you thought of the interview. Thank you for watching and see you next time.